Hello, welcome to the Bookcast Club, a podcast of people who like to chat books. My name is Sarah, and I am coming to you from Lutraweeta today, also known as Australia, and I am with Belle today, or I'm joined by Belle today. She is coming to you from Naarm, also known as Melbourne, and we are here today to chat through some of, or all of Sophie Mackintosh's books, actually. So she's an author that we have touched on a couple of times before, I believe, on the podcast. So we've talked about, she's got, we'll talk about her books later, but she's got quite a few, and we've talked about a couple of them before. But today we are going to go through all of her books together, one by one. How have you been? I forgot to ask you. We haven't preambled at all.
No, I know. We just went raw straight into this. I've been good. Just busy at work, just as usual. I feel like it's not like our industries get busy at Christmas time, but yeah, just felt busy the last month or so, and I'm about to go away, which is very exciting, which I was having a chat to Jen about on the Patreon.
Oh, nice. That one's not out yet. Yeah, that's going to be really nice. How many weeks are you going for?
I think it's just under 3 weeks. I've got 3 weeks
Yeah.
of leave, so it's like 2.5 weeks or something. Going to England, and then am in London over Christmas, and then going to Copenhagen over New Year's, and then flying back to Melbourne.
That's going to be really nice.
Lots of reading.
Yeah, just really nice. Really, yeah, it'll be really enjoyable.
How are you? You've just got back from being in the Netherlands.
I'm good, yeah. Yeah, I'm back in Australia now, so I'm in Australia for the next 4 or 5 months, I think, which is nice. The reason I travel back and forth so much, I don't know if I've ever actually said this, is for work. So I work with 2 different organizations, one in Australia and one in Netherlands, which is very nice. So that's why I move around. Yeah, so I'm back in Tasmania, which is always nice. I only got here on Monday, so I'm sort of feeling reasonably, I'm not super jet lagged. It's definitely easier because I went from winter into summer. It's way easier to get over jet lag that way. I also think going this direction is apparently easier, as in traveling east. I don't know, that's what people say. But also I think just going somewhere where it's sunnier, it's just easier to put your brain back into the right time zone. Whereas going the other way, last time when I went back over last time, it was like autumn. It was very grey, very overcast. I was like jet lagged for like well over a week. It was really difficult. So this time I'm back on board. I have picked up a cold, you can probably hear, so that's a bit unfortunate. Yeah, but aside from that, I'm pretty good. Looking forward to, I don't know what I'm looking forward to. Also, I'm thinking about going to this is quite minor. I'm thinking about going to Flinders Island in a few weeks.
Oh, nice. I feel like you did that last year. You've got family there.
Yeah, I do. Flinders Island is a very small island in Tasmania. Like, it's such a small and esoteric place, but thinking about going there. Yeah, so that should be fun. I think that's all my news. Having a cold is my main thing. It's really annoying.
I feel like the plain lurgy of coming back after a trip away as well. Like, you're run down, you're tired.
Yeah, I hope it's not COVID, as you just intimated to me before we started recording. Hopefully not.
Yeah, a bit of it going around. As I said, it's not like it changes too much in terms of your precautions anyway, but you should try and not spread whatever it is you've got, because it doesn't sound good.
No, I'll stay here. Right, so Sophie Mac.
Sophie Mac.
That's what I've been calling her.
Yeah. Sophie Mac it is. And so I did a little bit of a wiki stalk of her, but also just ended up reading her really nice biography that's on the Booker website. She's a London-based writer from Wales. I think she's in her mid-30s, and she is most well-known. Most well-known for her novel The Water Cure, as you said, that was published in 2018, longlisted for the Booker, which is her debut novel, and has since written 2 more novels, so Blue Ticket and Curse Bread, all of which we will be talking about on today's episode. I don't have too much more in terms of fun facts about her. She does also, not to plug another Substack, but she does have her own Substack as well. where she writes essays and some poetry too. It's called Little Intimacies. But we can pop her Instagram handle in the show notes, and there's a link to that. Can't attest for it, but I'm sure it's wonderful. Did we want to start by talking about her debut novel then, The Water Cure?
Yeah, let's do it. The Water Cure. So I reread this one for the pod. I think I read it pretty well when it came out. I definitely read it quite a few years ago. I'm trying to remember if I talked about it on the podcast. I don't think I did. So I think I read it in like 2019, something like that. Yeah, reread it. So this is her debut. So she writes a lot of what I would say. Her writing is sort of like, would you say literary fiction? It's kind of like a bit like kind of magical realism-y literary fiction. Blue Ticket's a little bit science fiction-y. There's kind of a bit of a mix of genres with her writing. But I would sort of broadly describe it as literary fiction. And her first novel, her debut, is about a family on an island, and they are in essentially a cult. So the father has just died, and it's the mother and their three daughters who are there still trying to survive. So the parents have taught their children a number of things that are sort of strange and vague about the outside world, and there's a particular focus on men in their beliefs and how they treat women, how men treat women. So the daughters really fear men, and there is a number of sort of weird and sinister rituals that they go through to try and keep themselves pure, and it's all sort of in aid of trying to avoid men and sort of stay by themselves. And the novel is largely about the arrival of some men on the island and what happens following their arrival. So you've read this one, you said. Okay, cool. You've read it. She's nodding. Sorry. She's eating cherries, actually, secretly, with her microphone on mute. So I'll tell you what I thought of it. So the writing, and this is true for all of her novels, the writing is very rich. It's very languid, and it sort of creeps over you. Kind of feels like a warm afternoon. The novel feels quite unsettled. There are a lot of sort of bizarre and sinister moments. But overall, I have to say I wasn't super enamored by this, and I sort of felt this way about it the first time I read it. And I wondered if I would feel a little bit differently the second time, but I didn't actually. So for this one, I guess being a debut, I don't know. I really feel like there was something missing, and that was largely for me around the characters. I didn't feel that the characters were particularly well drawn. Particularly, there's one, the sort of eldest daughter, Grace, is sort of okay, I would say, and then the other two have, I would say, very, very similar voices. So even though there's actually 3 points of view, the three daughters, there's minimal difference, I would say, between their points of view.
Does it stop swapping in the middle somewhere, where it's mostly Layla or
Leah, I think. God, I can't remember that. I think there's one of them who is there for more of it, which is the middle daughter. That might be Leah. It's mostly her voice, but it does go to the others as well.
I didn't actually notice it swapping much when it got to like the main chunk of it. And I'm saying that because I think I liked Grace best. I feel like she was the most well-rounded character.
Yes. I definitely found her the most interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I think it's because she seemed to be the most frustrated with their situation, like them living there. But it turns out in the end, they sort of make reference to I think so. She's the eldest sister, and she's 30.
Yes, and she's quite a bit older than the others, I think, and she sort of understands the parameters of their life a little bit better than the rest. And she's also pregnant, and how that. She's pregnant for the whole book, I think, pretty well. And how that actually happened is not really, it's kind of implied, it's not really detailed. But even though she's the best drawn character, I still found that her sort of thoughts about what was happening and her own kind of feelings were really not really there. They felt quite absent to me throughout.
I think there's times where she expresses her sort of frustration with them being there, and I guess... but she's the only one, I think, who's known they came there when she was small, I think. So she's the only one who maybe has some memory of before. You were saying earlier about what sort of genre you'd put it in, and I think it's more... I'd thought of a lot of Sophie Mackintosh's writing as dystopian fiction. As well as that like literary fiction. But in terms of dystopian, I think it also, like, it could have been written now. And like you said, just in a isolated cult, it's a family living in a big house on a coastline where there's no inland points of access. It's just a jetty with boats. Yeah, it's also just definitely not shy about that undercurrent themes of male violence and gender-based violence, and patriarchal conditioning. The dad his name's King. I think the book opens when he dies or disappears, and he's the one who sort of set this up. And then there's all these, like these sort of rituals or therapies that they go through, and everything's about keeping out sort of some toxin or toxicity that's in the outside world, and also very closely linked with keeping men out, and that the men are part of the toxin as well. Or I guess reading between the lines, it's instilled in the sisters, at least after King is gone, and it's just the mum raising them or helping them to survive, doling out these therapies, making them do these rituals. There's a lot spoken about sort of keeping away from men, or I guess the evil that men are, and which is brought to light because there's 3 men wash up. Without saying too much more, I also feel that they were lacking a bit as well. You could tell what was going to happen, and then that's exactly what did happen.
Yeah, so because all the characters are sort of, I wasn't super invested in them. The stakes don't feel, they are like high stakes, but to me they didn't feel very high, even though they are. I wasn't super invested in it or the end.
The other element of this, the sanitarium, or this like this big house on the coast, where they talk early on about how women used to come there and undergo these therapies as well, and they'd come sort of full of toxins and poisoned by the world, and then have to be sort of cleansed through the rituals and therapies and practices that mainly like the mum would do with them. And I think it can be read in multiple ways. So you either take it on face value that they do have some toxin in their system from, is it pollution? Is it, and they have to physically be cleansed. Or I read it that it was sort of accommodation for survivors of abuse, sort of a women's refuge, because they were often talking about the stories the women would tell about the men, or what had happened to them at the hands of the men in their life, and how this was to be, the mum was saying that this was to be a warning. I also just think that the therapies, like these rituals, when I read that on the back of like on the blurb, or when I'd read it in reviews about these sort of strange things that the parents had put the girls through doing, I'd imagined it more as like arming themselves against an apocalyptic, was it strength training, or these going to be useful skills that they could put into place. But actually it was just physical and psychological torture.
Yeah, it's very much against this kind of like invisible force. It's like a theoretical threat. A threat of the mind, really.
Yeah, the threat of being weak-minded, or the threat of being like hysterical women as well. There was like a whole lot of them where the sisters had to prove their love for one another by participating in essentially like psychological torment. Like, if you don't kill this mouse and drown this mouse, then your sister will have to do it. And so therefore you should want to take that burden from her and do it yourself. Read plainly, it was just parents abusing their children with these psychological games and manipulation. Yeah. Anyway, it was I thought it was interesting, and I liked it a lot more than I thought I was going to. Very good writing, but yeah, I think I agree that the characters just lacked a little bit of, I don't know if it was likability or depth, but I like the premise of it.
I think it's a lack of depth, honestly, that makes them unintriguing overall. So yeah, that's my sort of general. Yeah, sort of fine. Wouldn't massively recommend it.
Okay, keen to hear what you think about the next one then. Blue Ticket's another one that I think I'd describe as dystopian fiction. Essentially examines this society in which the decision to have children is taken out of women's hands. So it's set in an unnamed country where the day that a girl's period begins, they are given either a white ticket or a blue ticket. A white ticket means that they are required to have children, or they have the ability to have children, but it's very much like the expectation of them that they will have children, or a blue ticket, and after which a permanent IUD, like an intrauterine contraceptive device, is put in, and meaning that they never will have children. The two groups of girls are then separated from each other. And the blue ticket girls, at least, they undergo this brutal journey to the city on foot. So just have to start walking, and they have to fend for themselves, and they're not given any resources. And those who are strong enough to make it to, I don't know if it's like the next big city or if there's one central place that they're all supposedly traveling. If you make it there, then you're strong enough and you're given rest and you're given sort of care, and then you're given someone to live, and you choose a career from a short list that have been selected based on some examinations that you sit. And then you're seemingly free, other than the fact that you can't have children. I say seemingly free because they are sort of regulated. Like they've got this job. It doesn't seem like they can change jobs. They have weekly physical, mental health appointments with an assigned doctor who doesn't change throughout their lives, and doesn't seem like they have choice about where they live. Yeah, essentially, the men have agency, the government have agency over their lives, and they're just passive citizens. And the main character is a girl called Kala, who's a blue ticket, and she becomes bored with her life. She's having sort of casual relationships, and she's working in a lab and enjoys working in her lab, but is finding suddenly her life to be quite monotonous. She believes that she's been handed like the wrong life. She starts to question whether or not she was meant to get a white ticket and that they've made a mistake. She takes matters into her own hands by removing her IUD and becoming pregnant. And then what transpires, that's maybe the first quarter of the book, that happening. And then what transpires after that is that she's banished from society because she's broken the rules. She's given like a go pack. She's allowed to take her car, and then she's given a head start from authorities who are apparently going to capture her, come after her, and harm her and her baby. And then that's all I'll say, without giving too much of the plot away. But I feel like that much, you can sort of understand that that's going to happen reading the blurb. Do you want to start by telling me what you thought of this before I prattle on for ages?
Yeah, sure. I quite liked this one. I liked it a lot more than The Water Cure. It's interesting the way that this one kind of goes further into this like dystopian narrative than The Water Cure does. So it's kind of like specific and structured in all the ways that The Water Cure isn't. So it was interesting to read them kind of sort of all together. Here you've got like a very structured society where there's like specific rules, and you know exactly what's happening and the mechanisms. I really quite liked this. I wasn't sort of in the like world of dystopian fiction. It felt very like Handmaid's Tale-y, and quite a lot like sort of other dystopian fictions that are about like women's rights being controlled. But I really liked it, actually. I found it really interesting. There are certainly some scenes that are going to stay with me for a long time. E.g. the scenes where she removes her own IED was horrific. That made me feel sick for like overnight. I was like, ugh. Yeah, I really liked it. Actually, I liked it a lot more than The Water Cure. I found the plot really pretty interesting. And I found the characters to be definitely a lot stronger than they were in The Water Cure. So it definitely felt like a second novel, if that makes sense. So overall, I liked it a lot more. Actually, this one I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely liked it a lot more. I feel like the characters were stronger. It was similar to The Water Cure, and there wasn't that much world building. Like you sort of knew enough
Yeah.
to sort of get that sort of like the landscape of the more like the political landscape.
It had the sort of classic thing that every dystopian is missing, which is like, why is this happening?
Yeah,
They're just kind of thought experiments, dystopians.
yeah. It wasn't clear like is this in like is this one country or is this something that's happening all over the world?
Yeah, I read it as being American, and because she's trying to go north, so I kind of assumed she was going into Canada. Which is that exactly what happens in The Handmaid's Tale? Is that I haven't read it for years, but I'm pretty sure that's the premise of what the characters are trying to do in The Handmaid's Tale. But yeah, but it's like if you've read like Brave New World or Handmaid's Tale, any of those kind of classics, it feels very familiar. Yeah, I thought it was quite well done. Sorry, I interrupted you wildly. Please go on.
No, that's okay. Yeah. I had that image in my mind that they were in like it definitely seems like they're in a Western society, but there were and there's talk about them trying to reach a border or that there's this possibility of a border. But I'm not, for various reasons, I'm now a bit like doubtful as to whether that's true. Again, I feel like anything that's going to generate this many questions after you finish it, after like you get a little bit more information, and then you're starting to doubt things about events of like halfway through the book or things that were said that have structured your idea where you think they're trying to get to. I became very doubtful as to whether a border exists, even though her telling Calla that hinged on her needing to believe that a border existed for what the payout was going to be. For that to be true, there needs to be some border.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm now doubtful. I feel like the wool's being pulled over her eyes as well. I don't think there's a border.
That's a really good point. So yeah, the whole thing is like if you go north far enough, you hit the border, then you're good. They don't know anyone who has escaped.
I mean, she only knows that because of who she works with. In my mind, I'm still thinking it's one country, but there's no way out. Like, there's no way. Nobody's leaving, basically.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I believe you.
Yeah, I was reading a lot of descriptions in people's reviews when I was about halfway through. I was like, oh, I feel like this is getting good, and I wonder if it's getting as good as I think it's going to be. So I was having a bit of a cheeky look through Storygraph. And a lot of people, just as a side note, a lot of people calling it feminist fiction. And I wasn't really sure. I guess it is in a way that it's centered on female voices and exploring like reproductive rights. But it just made me think that what she does well and what I really liked in this book, as well as in The Water Cure, is I feel like she's very good at writing about female physicality, like about women's bodies, also the strength of women, but as well as their capacity for violence. So with the water cure, I felt like that was really inwardly turned. Yeah, the women in this novel is sort of the yeah, I don't know. I think, and I feel like that was part of them finding themselves outside of this society as well. Was that they had to learn to defend themselves and keep themselves safe, which maybe wasn't something that they had to do in this protected society, and was like something that Calla, who was the main character, found pleasure and sort of pride in, like knowing that her body was capable of doing that as well as carrying a child as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think she does capture that really well, and I think she captures the way that women think. I mean, obviously she would, but yeah, the way I like the way that she captures the way women think in different ways. It feels very in this book particularly. The characters felt very non-uniform in how they were thinking, and particularly around how they were conceptualizing motherhood and what they were thinking, and also their motivations for doing things were all quite
Yeah,
different. So I quite enjoyed that aspect of it. I thought that was really good.
I liked that. I guess Sophie was trying to say about there doesn't need to be necessarily a reason as well, and which I think is probably a big part of the academic debate about to have children, to not to have children amongst certain sectors of like young female society. I guess the people who are intellectuals or want to overthink the question and do I have good enough reason for wanting to do this? But yeah, there's only so much you can intellectualize whereas like Calla was like quite honest about not really knowing why she sort of felt this strong need. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I also really liked the other characters that they were brought, like the other female characters that were brought in. And I was sort of more interested in that story, like as a collective women who had found like that power in taking the control back. What did you think, speaking loosely, of the ending?
I actually can't, even though I read it quite recently, I can't remember it that well. So they go, you have to remind me, we'll bleep it out.
Yeah.
They go north. They go north, but
They go north. So
this is where we take a little break to tell you all about the different ways you can support the pod, most of which are totally free. We'll start with our Patreon. We've changed things up a little, making all of our bonus content open to everyone, no matter what tier you're on. It's a bit more of a pay what you want kind of thing. Tiers start at just £2 a month, and joining our Patreon will give you access to all of our chat on recent and current reads, DNFs, book prizes, what we're watching, and lots more. You can try our Patreon for free today. Just have a binge listen to our back catalogue of bonus episodes, and we take no offence if you choose to cancel afterwards. If you love receiving book mail and personalised recommendations, our top tier is still available. We get you to fill in a survey, and then we tailor our book recommendations to your preferences. Find all the details for that in our show notes. Free ways to support us that make a huge difference. A really effective and easy way of showing your support is by rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. There is a link in the show notes that will take you straight to the Apple Podcast page where you can write a review. If you listen on Spotify, you can very easily give us a star rating, and you can also share our posts on social media. We are at Bookcast Club on Instagram and TikTok. You can sign up to our newsletter on Substack, where we share even more book recommendations, our pick of the new releases, and all the latest podcast news. But the best way for us to find new listeners is by you telling your book-loving friends and family about us. But however you choose to show your support, we as always want to say a huge thank you. We really appreciate each and every one of our listeners. Yeah, that's right. Belle's just had to remind me of the ending because I forgot it. I mean, the fact that I forgot it when I only finished this book about 2 weeks ago is fairly telling, I guess. I thought it was fine. There were some aspects of it that were a little bit surprising, but I didn't find it. I was more compelled by the themes of this book and the characters than the plot itself, if that makes sense. So the ending was, yeah, fine, but I didn't feel any sort of like great emotion from it. What did you think?
I'm definitely remembering feeling quite gut-wrenched when you sort of realize what's about to happen. And then I guess there's a twist in the end, which is somewhat surprising. I'm not sure how it could have ended another way. And I think I'd prefer it almost to have ended like this.
Yeah, if it had been this sort of like horrible, because it's not a particularly emotional ending. Right, so I think if it had been like that, it would have been absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, it's like, what's the word, clinical or something? The ending?
Yeah.
The whole thing is kind of clinical, especially the way that the government, quote unquote government, deal with things. It's very clinical. So it sort of goes back to that very clinical tone, I guess.
Yeah.
Which does make it harder to sort of feel the emotions of what's happened.
Yeah. It makes it more believable to me, I feel, in terms of if it is a dystopian future where there's a global warming, climate change, this is a solution to a overpopulated planet. All of the clinical sort of coldness of it seems realistic. I really like the fact that they sort of appointed a doctor and then they have to go to see this doctor. Like, we're talking back in the city with all the blue ticket women supposedly have a doctor as well that they all have to see. They go and have to see this doctor once a week who takes their sort of vital signs and does like a physical on them, but also seems to be like a psychiatrist or a psychologist. And it's sort of like almost like they're trying to prevent this from happening by put these in place as a preventative measure for this exact thing actually happening. I'm guessing that, this psychologist, if they get like, they're the ones who have to rat them out, or this doctor, that if they do get pregnant, but they maybe can see it happening ahead of time and, I don't know, mark these people out to the the government, whoever's in control of the situation. Anyway, it was interesting.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a good one. I definitely recommend this one over The Water Cure, I would say.
Yeah.
Shall we talk about Cursed Bread? We
Yeah.
could.
Yeah.
So Cursed Bread is the final one that we're going to talk about. That's her most recent novel. So this one came out last year, I want to say. So we actually did a Patreon episode about this. Me and Chris did a Patreon episode about this. So I will link that in the show. I'll link our Patreon in the show notes. Cursed Bread is based on actually a true story about a small post-war town in France that collectively loses its mind. So some historians believe that the mysterious illness and violent hallucinations that happen among the townspeople were caused by spoiled bread, but others claim it was the result of covert government testing on the local population. So what the actual book is about someone called Elodie. So she is the baker's wife in this small town, and she is desperate to escape her dull and small town life. And one day, a new couple come into the neighborhood, and they start coming into the bakery, and Elodie sort of falls under a spell that they have almost. So all summer long, she stalks them. So they start going to different parties with them. She gets into their home. I think she gets invited. They're very friendly, sort of charismatic people. And so when she's in parties that they're hosting, or when she's in parties that they are in, she's always eavesdropping on their conversations or watching them, and she really wants to sort of get involved and be part of their lives. And it's particularly the wife, whose name has actually escaped me, that Elodie is really trying to is sort of becoming more and more enamored with, and she's more and more fascinated by her. So it's mostly really about their friendship, because as the book evolves, they start to have more and more contact with each other. So it's really about these two women and their friendship. Had you read this one before? No, right? Oh, you had. What did you think?
This was a patron book in the post gift. Not gift, but book in the post from last year. So I read it then, and I loved it. This is definitely my favourite book by her. I thought it was sexy and seductive, and I'm not sure how much I realised at the start of it, of the fact that it was based on a real unsolved mystery. I vaguely remember there's some, I don't know if it's a chapter or just like a couple of paragraphs at the end that says, to that effect. And I remember it really taking me by surprise. Maybe it was some other information that was revealed at the end as well. No, but I really, really loved it.
Yeah, I love this one as well. It's very, I saw a review that it was like a fevered confession, which I think is a great description. It's really, her writing is really strong. It's really strong from her first novel. And it's this kind of I think I described it as languid before. It's this kind of languid, rich, heavy, sort of, heavy feeling into her writing. And it really suits this novel, I think, very, very well. So it sort of puts you in this kind of weird trance almost, because it's just so heavy and sort of scented. It's very, very rich. And it works wonderfully with this novel, I think. She really, really hits her stride, I think, with this novel. This one is excellent. I loved it as well.
And there's this sense that that Elodie's falling under the spell, the trance of Violet and her husband as well. And again, in the pair, it seems that Violet is the dominant, sort of the more the stronger character in the couple, and Elodie is really drawn to her, but there's this real seductive undertone as well. It's great. I loved it.
It's very kind of perfectly understated, I would say, the way that this seduction, it's really good.
And that deep envy as well. So Elodie being very fixated and obsessed with Violet, but also envious of the relationship that Violet has with her husband, and the desire within their marriage as well that she doesn't have in her relationship.
Her relationship is very kind of sexless, and it's not empty. It's not. Yeah, it's just not very fiery, and they have sort of a very different kind of relationship. And the attraction between Elodie and Violet is so sort of unspoken and fevered and odd. It's got this like great energy. It's got like it's really, really wonderful. It's really, really well done. Yeah, so the book ends, which you know about from the beginning, with like this sort of mass poisoning across the town. And one of the things that goes on, one of the sort of questions of the novel is how this mass poisoning actually happens. But there's something else that happens between Elodie and Violet that is revealed right at the end. I'm very curious to know what you thought of that ending.
Remind me, what are you talking about? Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I loved it. I loved it. It completely took me by surprise, and I just felt so like wronged, like on Elodie's behalf. Oh no, yeah, without giving too much away, I loved it, and I loved that you realize the place from which she's writing, because it's narrated by Elodie but written post events,
Yes.
and you suddenly sort of realize the place, sort of, not the physical place, but the place from which she's writing it from after all of those events coming to a head, and like the different person that we find her as compared to who she was when Violet first walked in is, yeah, I loved it. Definitely my favorite of Sophie Mackintosh's. And yeah,
Yeah.
I've given this book out to a couple of friends who have all loved it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, this is I love the ending. It's like if the first two, one ending was whatever and the other one I had to be reminded of, but this one I loved it. It's an absolute banger.
I can't believe that this wasn't the book that she was on the
Yeah,
Booker long list
I had
for.
the same thought. Because I think it's just so I think it's perfect, like it almost perfect, I want to say. Like it just tone, pacing, characters, I think it's really, really good, really, really strong. And the water cure, I just don't think is, to be honest. So yeah, I just
The length of it as well, like it's very easy to devour. It'd probably be shorter than the water cure. It's just like,
yeah, they're each sort of like somewhere between 100 and 150 pages, I think,
yeah,
all of her books. They're not long. Um, so it's
yeah.
just this kind of like slice of a short period of time, and it's just really okay. That was a lie. Apparently, the blue ticket's 300, so I total lie there. Let me look. I will look at the page numbers now that I've lied. Curse Bread is 180, and the water cure is 250. Okay,
There you
so
go.
they're shortish.
So I feel like unanimous first,
Oh, big time. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
second being blue ticket,
Yes, agree.
quite far third being water cure.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend Curse Bread. And then Blue Ticket, if you love a dystopian, then I would recommend it. If you don't necessarily love a dystopian, then I wouldn't. Um, I would only recommend it if you, yeah, for people who like dystopians, I would say. But whereas Cursed Bread, I think is just a general banger.
Yeah. I put another one in, but I won't talk about it too much. I picked up At the Pond, which is a group of essays about swimming at the Hampstead Ladies Pond.
Yeah, well done. So I didn't know she'd written this. So this is
an essay collection, and it's divided into seasons, and written about different women's experience of the Ladies Pond. And Sophie Mackintosh's chapter is in the autumn section. I think the winter section are definitely the strongest essays, like, of course, because they're obviously written by women who do the, sub degrees winter swimming, which is pretty incredible. But I really enjoyed Sophie Mackintosh's essay, and it had some really lovely lines in it. And I just wanted to read out one particular line. She was talking about visiting the mixed pond and then finding the ladies' pond like a relative oasis and retreat from sort of the busyness of the mixed pond. These are swimming ponds in the Hampstead Heath, just out of London. There's this line that I haven't stopped thinking about since I read it, and so I thought I would read it out to you. She's describing the ladies' pond. And she said, all around you are bodies packed into the available space, but never as intrusively as at the mixed pond. Women having grown up with the awareness of the space we take up. Women wanting to give room to women. And I thought that was just a really nice summary of the way that Sophie writes about women physicality and experience. And yep, I just keep thinking about that line. So thought I would share to wrap up.
Yeah, lovely.
The episode.
That's really... Sorry, I'm just talking off the top of you. Yeah, I agree.
No, go completely. For it.
I think that is a real... I had that exact same thought as you were reading it out loud that you then just said. So yeah, it does really speak to her kind of general habit, I guess, as a writer. To wrap up, I think I'm definitely going to read her next book, because they got sort of stronger and stronger as if I think of them in publication order, they got stronger and stronger. So I'm definitely interested to see what she does next. Was just looking, and it looks like she has got a new book coming out through Penguin, but it doesn't have a release date. So there's something
in the work. And by the way, the order that we've mentioned them is by publication date as well. So yes. I feel like I'm looking forward to reading what she writes next.
Yeah, me too, for sure. God, I better go, I think. I'm feeling a bit out of breath. Maybe I have got COVID. How exciting.
Yeah. All right. Go look after yourself.
Thank you. Thanks for this. This was fun. We kind of I really like these author videos, so let us know. I don't know, do you like them?
I've enjoyed recording them, but yes.
Yeah, I like them a lot.
People out there who are listening, let us know if you enjoy them.
Yeah, and if you've got an author idea for next season, that would be good. We've got a couple of contenders. We've got quite a lot of contenders, actually, but I'd be interested to hear anyone's thoughts. Excellent. I'm going to go.
Okay.
I feel like shit.
Oh, get an early night.
Thank you.
All right.
So there's one episode left of the season after this, and that is our sort of reunion. We're going to record together, right? That's the idea?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the plan.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
The one episode left, and then that's it.
Yeah.
Thanks, Belle.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening, guys.
Thank you. If you would like to support the podcast, you can check out our Patreon, which is linked below. If you want to contact us with questions, ideas, feedback, recommendations, whatever, we are the Bookcast Club at outlook.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at Bookcast Club on Instagram and Twitter, and we also have a newsletter where we have more reviews and releases and, I don't know, other stuff. Thank you for listening. Thanks again. And we will talk to you again once more this season next week. Goodbye.
Bye.